Okay, Brandon.
Okay, Dan.
We here at Food Heist Crime Headquarters.
Yes.
Um, Now that we have discussed the burglar a couple of times,
Yep.
the pieces are starting to fall together. Clearly, this is much more widespread than we thought. The burglar has been all over and has done a lot of other things. This one happened a few months ago. This was in May, so earlier this year. The burglar broke into the garage of a bakery in Connecticut.
Wow.
And stole 60 cupcakes.
60 cupcakes.
Yeah.
Wow. That's 6 tenths. And that's awful.
6 tens?
I
don't know what to do with this.
Have you forgotten the reference already?
Is this the pies?
This is the pies.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's 6 tens?
Well, I think it was it was like he stole 40 pies. That's 4 tens. And that's awful, or whatever it is.
Brandon, when I have my stress squeezy thing here, you need to not throw references at me that I don't understand.
But it's such a good reference.
No, it's good. This was one of the burglar's more daring heists.
Yes.
Because the workers at the bakery were there. The garage was open and they were loading cupcakes and various stuff into a truck, and the burglar got right into the garage, right under their noses.
This is armed robbery. Because a bear,
he has the right to bear arms.
Yes.
So that's. I tried to maintain a straight face and it couldn't work. Yeah. So anyway, they used their car horn. It says they were able to scare the bear off by using a car horn, but I think we know the burglar doesn't get scared of car horns.
The burglar is just a fast bash and grab thief. 60 cupcakes is all he wanted at that point, and has made off with his 60 cupcakes.
Well, like we said, when you hire the burglar, you're sending a message.
Yep.
He could have broken in at night.
Nope.
He could have infiltrated
quietly. He's not going to do that.
But then what would be the point? Just leave like a big bear footprint on your floor? No. He goes there when you're there, and he lets you know who's in charge.
So, Dan, I have the results of our quarterfinals.
Very nice.
Yes, I announced them last week or so. We're getting really close to the end. And it's interesting because we have had a double upset week.
A double upset
week. So, the Gnocchi Gnocchi restaurant has been defeated.
What?
By the Edelstahlkugel.
By the Edelstahlkugel?
Yes.
Okay, as much as I love the Gnocchi Brothers Gnocchi restaurant, I was rooting for the Edelstahlkugel.
Were you?
Yeah.
I really wanted a Gnocchi Brothers Gnocchi restaurant t-shirt.
Yeah.
But
you know what I really want is Gnocchi Brothers Gnocchi restaurant letterhead. And all official communications that I send from Dragonsteel will be printed on it.
So, they're out and the Edelstahlkugel is here.
Okay.
We're going to, I believe, the finals. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, this will be Final Four, right? The semifinals.
Oh, no, you're right.
Yeah.
Where'd Scar go? Scar would have this for us, but...
we should be down to 4 of each at this point.
I'm just remembering this from my weekly update. I don't actually have.
He's going to walk up and just casually hand you the page that has all the information on it.
Sheet.
No one has updated it.
Okay.
So it's wrong.
So we don't have. Yeah.
Here I thought he was looking so professional.
Yeah. So, this is round two. Okay. So yes, this was round 2. You are correct.
Okay.
So this is now they're going to the final 4 because so the Edelstahlkugel has moved into the final 4.
So do we have the full final 4 for both?
That's a question for Scar, but let me tell you, another enormous upset, one of our biggest upsets, almost as big as before. The Great British Fake Off is out.
What?
Yes.
What beat it? I
Weekend
don't
at Vader's with an actual zombie.
Weekend at Vader's with an actual zombie. I suppose we should have seen that one coming.
Yeah. So the Great British Fake Off, also one of my top. Like, I think I would have picked that one and the Gnocchi Brothers Gnocchi Restaurant, maybe
over those two. I
think I would have picked those two to be my finals, and they're both out.
The Great British Fake Off. This is not to be construed as a promise that anything will happen. But you and I have had 2 full meetings. About that. We've created an outline. We didn't really love it. We're going back and forth. I don't know if anything will ever happen with that because Hollywood is very slowly eating itself. But
there may not be a Hollywood. But
we could sell it to Bollywood. It would be a musical and an action movie.
They would do a really good job with the
would.
Great British Fake Off.
That would actually be awesome.
Maybe we could get one of the RRR guys to be in it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Call us,
RRR guys.
Yeah.
That, by the way, is just so you know, Brandon and I made a deal like a month ago that if I would watch Across the Spider-Verse, he would watch RRR, and neither of those things has happened.
I really do want to watch it. I just haven't watched anything in my theater in that month. I've been traveling and things like that, but I will get to it. So, Scar... Do we have... No, he ran off. Scar has vanished again.
Off busily getting all the information.
Yeah, so he'll come back and tell us. So, but we are close to our final 4, I believe. So, and I don't know which we're supposed to announce today. That's the big question.
We'll announce that later on.
Yeah,
when Scar
returns.
Back.
Yeah. So, today, our timer went away.
That's okay.
We could just go forever.
We can just talk. No, if we say that, then people will be disappointed that we only talked for like 35 minutes.
Yeah.
No, we want to talk about toys. There's actually, and we've done an episode before about how we're Gen X and we grew up in this very specific kind of era. And so we're not going to retread any of that, but...
we can't promise we're not going to retread any of that.
We're probably going to retread a lot of it. We were born late 70s, grew up in the 80s, which was like I won't say the height of toy TV marketing, but it was like the start of it.
Yeah,
it was when people realized, oh, hey.
Now, there was a law.
Yeah.
It was Carter, was it? Adam, we might need you to run point for us here on this. When did the law change?
That you were allowed to market to children.
When you're allowed to market with a cartoon show to children. Because it's either Carter or Reagan. Seems like more of a Reagan thing.
It does seem like a Reagan thing.
In fact, it's
Any
almost
kind of
assuredly
deregulation.
Reagan. Yeah, but it's possible it was, yeah.
Hang on. Adam texted me just now.
Ooh, Adam texted you.
He texted me an AI-created picture of the Beargler. Okay, this is awesome. This is like a cute fairy tale bear stealing cupcakes, wearing the weirdest hat I've ever seen.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, the Beargler still... That's a great picture of the Beargler.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a perfect...
That's not the ominous thief that food purveyors fear across North America.
Oh, I think
but
that
it is
think
kind
that
of an
is
adorable guy eating cupcakes in Goldilocks' house.
I mean, I believe, the Beargler belongs in like that sort of feel. Like a hat for the Beargler is perfect.
Yeah.
We will try to get that picture up on the liner notes for people who want to see the unofficial AI interpreted version of the Beargler.
In 1990.
1990? No.
There's no way.
It wasn't 1990.
Because, okay. Here, come over and make sure the microphone can hear you.
So, according to Wikipedia, it says in the United States, advertisements marketed to children effectively linked to the same regulations which prohibited program-length advertising were limited between 1946 and 1983 with the Children's Television Act, which I assume is what you were talking about.
Okay.
introduced in 1990 and strengthened in 1996.
Okay, so it's 83.
83 is when it fell apart.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And then 90 is when the Television Act came back.
And they tried to regulate more.
And so absolutely, our childhoods were that
83 to 90
vacuous
that's the
hole
number
in
we
the
were looking
middle.
for. So that is going to be Reagan.
Yeah. And that was the time when, they were making like all the cartoons that we grew up watching.
Were advertisements for toys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were just half-hour long shows that were commercials.
And there was something about this law until 83 that prevented that from happening, which kind of sounds weird now because, that's the way it's been.
Now, advertisers run the whole universe.
Yeah, but there were restrictions on all of this stuff. It went away, and suddenly we got G.I. Joe, Transformers, etc. Which was your toy of choice?
Oh, man.
Age?
Well, see, that is a difficult answer.
Mm-hmm.
My toy of choice was G.I. Joe.
Was it? Okay.
But I owned very few G.I. Joes.
Interesting.
Yeah. I ended up with a really vast collection of weird, like, secondary toy characters that were cheap.
Okay.
And I always wanted the G.I. Joes. And I had a couple of them, but I don't think I had any of the vehicles. I just had guys.
So I had a ton of G.I. Joes.
Yeah.
I watched the cartoon quite a bit. My brother and I can remember like when they started doing like movies. I think they were TV movies originally or things like that.
Yeah.
The one with Sergeant Slaughter in it, whenever that one was.
Yeah.
We just loved that movie. We watched it over and over again. And I had all the play sets and toys. To quote, you're going to hear me quoting Strong Bag quite a bit on this. The Cheat Commandos. Are you familiar with the Cheat Commandos?
I am, yes.
Yeah, buy all our play sets and toys. You guys should all go watch that. It's an old piece of internet history. It's 20 years old now, but I loved it. And yeah.
Strong Bad is 20 years old.
Yeah.
It is. That's crazy to think about.
Strong Bad's 20 years old, and kids don't know it anymore these days.
Yeah.
But the Cheat Commandos was a parody of all these things that we unironically loved when we were of the age.
Yeah.
So I remember, like, on a birthday, getting, like, the G.I. Joe, like, giant oil rig secret base, ocean secret base that had, like, the pylons and things for the G.I. Joes to play on. I mean, to do important missions on.
On which they could fight evil.
And one of our favorite things to do with G.I. Joes was to build them power armor out of Legos.
Oh, okay.
It never looked as cool as you would hope.
You imagine it
because it's like a G.I. Joe in a yellow box because the Legos we had were yellow from the castle. And so you build this like power armor for G.I. Joe, but it's just basically a box with arms on it. So,
yeah. Boy, you know what I built out of Legos when I was a kid?
What's that?
Was an Airwolf.
You built an Airwolf.
I built an Airwolf helicopter.
Uh-huh.
It was like bright blue because I didn't have enough black Legos.
Yep.
But it did have an extendable and retractable missile launcher on the bottom.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I was very proud of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that the original Airwolf had a hand crank to extend its missile launcher out of the bottom, but
I mean, that speaks a lot for your Lego building skills as a young man.
Yeah.
But yep, I had those. Though the first toy of that ilk I can remember buying was a GoBot.
I had so many GoBots.
I was at the drugstore with my mom, and this is before the invasion. Transformers weren't a thing yet.
Okay.
GoBots happened first, and then Transformers came and kind of destroyed that market and took over. And I'm at the drugstore, and it's one of those memories. I can remember what the drugstore smelled like when I got my GoBot, which is so weird that memory is there. Where at the checkout counter, my mom is buying stuff. I look down, they have a basket at the end of the checkout counter full of GoBots in their little plastic things that they've just gotten in. And I'm like, what is this? And they're like, oh, it's a new thing. It's an ambulance that is also a robot.
So the first one you got was an ambulance.
Ambulance that was also a robot. Yep.
Okay.
Whatever the ambulance was, the first generation GoBot in America that was an ambulance. And that toy, like I played with that to no end.
Yeah.
I love that toy. So my parents quickly realized Transformers and GoBots were a cool thing to get for me. So I had a lot of G.I. Joes, but Transformers were, I would say, my thing.
Your thing.
I loved Transformers.
My first GoBot, and I'm pretty sure I still have it at home.
Oh.
Because I don't throw toys away. It was the train engine. It was this like black train engine guy.
Yeah, I had that one too.
Yeah.
That was an even cooler one.
That was
because
a cool one.
Ambulance is cool, but train engine.
The train guy was neat.
Yeah.
I can't remember what any of the other GoBots were. I had a bunch of them.
So tell me this. Here's a word that's just kind of a family word. Did you have a daiji?
A
daiji is what? So you have to go into old Brandon story time now.
Okay.
So Emily and I got married later than a lot of her siblings. We were in our 30s, and so her siblings had children by the time we got married. In fact, one of her siblings had like a 12-year-old when we got married.
Oh, wow.
Her younger brother did. And so we got married, and so there's certain terminology that the family used. And one of them is this term that my sister-in-law, who speaks Japanese, and her husband also speaks Japanese. Neither of them are Japanese, but Japanese is one of the things they studied in school and things like that. And they learned a word in Japan that they used for their kids. It means like comfort item. Like, we don't have a good word for it in English, which is why they needed to use the Japanese one. We just call it comfort item. That's not nearly as cool as your daiji.
Your daiji.
Yes. And so their daughter, Hana, had Mofi, the blanket.
Okay.
And Mofi, they had made the mistake of getting, you don't know when you're a new parent that maybe the kid is going to bond to this random thing that is then going to become the thing they must have to soothe themselves. And she bonded to this blanket that was really cheap and like single ply, basically. And that's the one she picked. And so by the time when we got married, it was already ragged and starting to break into pieces and things like that. So they still have pieces of Mofi.
Pieces of Mofi.
Yeah,
somewhere.
Hana's now like 17. So, but they have pieces of Mofi. And I joke about the shards of Mofi someday being reforged into a thing. But daiji became the term. So all of my kids have referred to their comfort item as their daiji.
Okay.
Did you have a daiji?
Term. First, I have to tell you that the closest analog to that among my children was that my second kid, he had a pacifier with Elmo on it.
Yeah.
And so all pacifiers became Elmos for like the next 3 kids.
That's awesome.
And it wasn't until...
Where's my Elmo?
Yeah. Kid number 5 called him Minas because we lived in Germany and he was picking up different German phonemes. But yeah, pacifiers were Elmos. Where's the Elmo? Which Elmo is it? Oh, it's the Elmo with Big Bird on it.
Yeah, my kids each had a daiji. They were mostly blankets, except my middle child, who is always the interesting one. He has a giant stuffed turtle.
Giant stuffed turtle.
That is named Turtle and is, still very important to him, though not, he's 14 now, so it's not like, but
yeah.
Though, do you want to hear a sweet story?
Yes.
Youngest kid lost his blanket called Mimi. And we still to this day have no idea where Mimi went. Because just vanished one day. And I'm sure you did this hunt. The parental, I need to go to bed, where is my daiji? Oh no, we have to scour the house and the cars and the backyard and under each piece of furniture.
Find this
thing.
And Mimi has never been found.
And Mimi's never been found. But my middle son, Dallin, after a couple of months of his brother kind of sniffling and crying and not having his Mimi, said, "Do you think we could find the same Mimi on eBay?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, maybe." And he went and he found it himself.
Wow.
I did a quick search and couldn't find it. He did all this work and spent like hours looking through blankets with yellow stars on them and finally found it and said, Dad, it's here. And he actually legit found the exact same Mimi.
That's
and
so cool.
Ordered it for his younger brother and gave it to him.
Heart.
Yeah.
How old was he when he did that?
So this would have been like 2 years ago. So Down was 12 and Oliver was 8.
Yeah.
And so,
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's there's some hero points to Dallin for accomplishing that.
I'm trying to think if I had a Daiji. I don't know.
I did.
You did?
Yes.
What was it?
My Daiji was Sparky, the stuffed Dalmatian. Yes.
Okay.
And I remember having Sparky as a Daiji. In fact, we went one time to the local, we called it the Acreage. It was kind of like a little permanent farmer's market, but indoors. Like it had all these little shops that sold things that like, my mom liked, like little furniture things and here, come to our honey store and buy our honey, right? It was in Lincoln, Nebraska. And one day we were at the Acreage and there was a sketch artist who was doing sketches of couples, right? Kind of busker-esque, but more official with the chalk sketches. And I made him draw my Daiji, not me.
Oh, not you and the Dalmatian.
Nope, just my Daiji.
The Dalmatian.
My dad paid for a sketch of the Dalmatian, which is hilarious. Which is kind of the only way I remember what it looks like now, because my mom gave it to the Salvation Army when I was a teenager. Yeah.
That's just cruel.
Yep. She didn't, you're a teenager. I still had Sparky on my bed. But I was like 17. So it's just like Sparky just sat there. It's not like Sparky, but Sparky was still somewhat special to me. And Sparky vanished one day and went to the Salvation Army.
Went to live on a farm.
The
closest thing that I had to that, there was a teddy bear that I had as a child and still have because I don't throw toys away. But the kind of the closest thing to a Daiji I actually got when I was around 6 or 7, so much later than like the baby toy.
Yeah.
And it was a friend who lived across the street moved to England, and he was the kid that we played with all the time. And while they were moving, we were screwing around playing like underneath the moving van because we're really smart.
Yeah.
And there
As
was
one does.
water.
You pass those to me.
Yes. Those were pens, by the way, anyone who wasn't watching. So there was water in the gutter, and I didn't want to step in the water, so I jumped over the gutter while under a moving van. And to this day, like, still have like a slight divot in my skull.
That explains so much.
It does, right? You're like, oh, massive head trauma at 6 years old. Anyway, so he felt so bad, and we didn't get to say goodbye because when they were finally pulling away to move, I was in an Instacare getting 9 centimeters of stitches. He gave me a stuffed penguin. It's about 2 feet tall. And of course, I still have it. I actually took it with me to college.
Nice.
And at that point, penguin was a verb because this was an incredible thing to hit people with. Hold it by the beak, and you could just wallop someone really hard. It was wonderful.
I had something I did that with, but it was something I purchased a little later. I was in band. We went on some competition somewhere, and I was a trumpet player. And as a trumpet player, we our section went to some corner store or something. I don't even remember where the store was, but there I found an octopus. We all bought dumb little toys, right? But I found an octopus with a squeaker in it, right?
Yeah.
And it was maybe yay big, about as big if you're not watching as a handspan, a little bit bigger than a handspan.
Cantaloupe kind of size?
Yeah, but it's plastic, so it's flat, right?
Okay.
It's a flat plastic octopus, and we named him Mr. Squid.
Okay.
Because we were teenagers and we knew what an octopus was, but we named him Mr. Squid as a section. And then during pep band, we would throw Mr. Squid to each other or throw him in the air, mostly to antagonize the drumline, who was always very serious at pep band because it's the drumline.
Yeah.
They're very serious. So the drumline's there, and then these dumb trumpets are throwing an octopus that they named Mr. Squid to annoy the drumline because they're like, it's an octopus. We're like, yeah, it's Mr. Squid. Eventually, Mr. Squid got dismembered by
the drumline?
A very angry member of the drumline after Mr. Squid did hit his drum, which we deserved it, right? Like, there's certain play you can do, but when Mr. Squid the octopus hits your drum, you're allowed to remove a leg, I suspect, as recompense. And so he actually went a little far. He ripped off all of Mr. Squid's legs.
Oh. And they didn't grow back.
They didn't grow back.
I don't think that actually happens with octopus.
Or
squids.
But then I just went and bought another one, and I still have that one. And that one went flying around. We just kept him a little further from the drum line. So Mr. Squid II is in my cabinet upstairs.
Very nice.
So
that's cool. Did you ever see the Michael Jackson show at Disneyland called Captain EO?
I did not. I remember when it came out and what a big deal it was.
It was a huge deal.
But I did not go see it. I have been to Disney twice, and maybe we should talk theme parks on a separate episode.
We should do a theme park episode sometime. So it is difficult to express in modern comparison the stardom that Michael Jackson had. But at some point in the 80s, he did this huge 3D show at Disneyland, and you just it was like a ride. You stood in line, and then you went in, and you put 3D glasses on, you watched it. Anyway, it was this absolutely phenomenal space opera thing that was as ridiculous as it could possibly be while still being essentially just like a Michael Jackson video.
And I'm sure he took it very seriously.
Well, I did buy one of the toys. This is, you're going to see a recurring theme in the stuffed animals that Dan loves, because there was this one, it was like a monkey with butterfly wings and this big long tail.
Okay.
And they were selling a stuffed whatever that thing is.
Yep.
And the tail's like a good 1.5 feet long. You can really get a lot of momentum going, spinning that thing around and then smacking your little sister in the head with a stuffed Captain EO alien. So,
do you still have this?
Of course I still have this.
I think we need show and tell on a future episode where you bring these all.
Where I bring in all the ridiculous toys that I still have.
Yeah, I think you should do that.
Okay, so let's talk about, let's get back to some toys now.
Yes, okay.
Did you ever collect Mask?
I did have a.
You did have some Mask stuff?
That's the one where it's like a boat, but then it shoots out a motorcycle. Is that it? Yeah.
It was like Transformers, except it was a vehicle that turned into a different vehicle.
But it didn't even turn into it, right? It just had it hiding inside.
Well, there were different ones. Like I had a minivan that could pop open, and then it became an artillery emplacement, and a little jet would fly out of it.
Okay.
And there was a motorcycle that turned into a flying motorcycle.
Okay.
There was a helicopter that turned into a plane. I still don't understand what the value of that might be.
Hey, VTOL.
Yeah.
Right?
There you go.
Off the helicopter, and then
Yep. And then it's time to go fast.
I had one. I only know this because we played with it in my swimming pool. And I had like a truck that turned into like a boat. And I was like, it shoots out the boat.
Nice. I had so much Mask stuff.
Okay.
I had like an SUV that turned into an armored SUV. I had their base at one point. And it was this weird like Red Rock gas station thing that folded out into a big command center. We sold that in a yard sale when I was little, and some guy paid me like $5 for it, and then he put it in his trunk and drove away, and I've never sold anything in a yard sale since because it was so sad to watch this thing go away, and this guy didn't even care about it. So that's why I still have all the other toys.
Okay. The mask playset died.
The mask playset died so that
all the others
60 little battle beasts could still be in a bin in my garage.
Did you watch like Toy Story and just like your heart break remembering the one that you sold?
Well, it was a command center, right? So
Right.
it didn't have like a face.
Okay.
So I have to assume that the command center version of, the Woody and Buzz playset, does that feel sad when it leaves? I don't think so.
Yeah, if
I
they
hope
don't
not.
have a face, they don't. Is that
Yeah.
how Toy Story logic
I don't
works?
know, because they had that one like TV movie with all the like dinosaur guys, and there was a clear distinction between the figures and like their catapults and stuff. Their catapults didn't have
That's true.
feelings.
Okay.
They didn't move on their own.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We probably can't delve into Toy Story logic because it makes no sense. And that's a very weird film series.
It is. It is deeply weird.
Did you
hear
like the
they're
last
making
one?
a fifth one?
Well, of course they are. The last few Pixar films have underperformed.
I actually really didn't like number 4.
I didn't either.
I kind of deeply hated it.
Is that a separate episode? Should we can dig into that here.
Dig into
Why you deeply
Toy Story
hated,
4?
Because I didn't deeply hate it. I just think that it was a mistake.
It was definitely a mistake. I didn't love 3 either.
Oh yeah?
2 is the pinnacle. 2 is one of the greatest movies, arguably the greatest movie Pixar's ever made.
I will agree 2 is the pinnacle of Toy Story.
Yeah.
I think 3 is a good movie.
3 is good.
And I'm glad 3 exists as a, like, I would rather 3 exist than not because you have to complete the full arc, right? Movie 1, we can't lose anyone, right? And I can't get replaced. Movie 2 is we can't lose anyone. Movie 3 is it happens. What we've been afraid of for 2 movies, the kid grew up. That has to, we have to confront that because it's part of what the story's about.
Yeah.
And so you need 3 for that reason.
I mean, that is a good excuse for 3 to exist. Yeah. And I do like the bookend where at the end he gives all the toys to the little girl. Sorry to spoil the ending of Toy Story 3.
Yeah. It is a very perfect sort of ending.
Yeah.
But
what 3 did, because the entire Act 2, arguably much more than that, takes place kind of away from children altogether. And they don't belong to anybody. It isn't about Andy. It isn't about their place in the world. It kind of left the core premise behind, and it opened it up to
4, which is
the same thing, which is they're not really toys anymore. They're just tiny people who don't want to be seen by humans.
Yeah, they're tiny slaves.
Yeah.
Is 4 takes it that one extra step that you can't take this premise or it breaks the premise.
Yeah.
And then 4 had the only ending that 4 could have had after you break that premise, which is, well, we don't need any kids.
Yeah.
Which
we're just going to be lost toys forever.
Yeah.
And we're going to be on our own.
But it completely destroys the concept of the first 3.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a logical progression, but you have to accept that Toy Story logic is all a metaphor and that you can't take that step without completely.
Well, and that's the problem, because in the first one and even in the second one, the whole goal is to be a toy. We are Andy's toy. This is what we do, and we are happy about it. And by the time you get to 4, that delightful kind of childhood tale has been distorted into, actually, no, we are recovering abuse victims who have finally escaped enslavement by humanity.
Yeah.
And we get to live in the woods. And I'm like, yeah.
Goodbye to the premise of 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 in particular. You can't watch those anymore.
Yeah.
Without thinking, well, yeah, but you're an enslaved race of magical creatures that no one knows exist. So, yeah. Back to something more lighthearted. He-Man.
He-Man.
Did you have He-Man?
I had He-Man only because, and I should ask my parents because I don't actually know why this was. There was a year or so in which, for some reason, I needed regular blood tests.
Oh.
And so I would go into LDS Hospital in the Avenues in Salt Lake City once a month, and I would get my blood drawn. And then for being such a brave little boy, I got to pick a toy out of the basket.
Oh, cool.
And I got 6 or 7 He-Man
He-Man?
toys out of that.
I never
And loved every one of them.
really liked He-Man, but I had a couple of them. They weren't my style. Like the giant beefy dude, I just wasn't interested in that. The cartoon was on and Orko was cool, so I did watch the cartoon. And it did have kind of that fun premise of I'm hidden as I'm a superhero, but you don't know it. But and you would think I'd like the fantasy property, but it was based off of the old school Conan type fantasy property, and the muscular dude versus the wizard, and just never quite clicked with me.
It was basically, what if Conan was also Batman?
What if Conan were marketable?
Yeah,
and
the Batmobile was a cat.
Yep.
I never actually had a He-Man himself. I never had any big muscly dudes. I had Ram Man, who was this guy who you could compress and then push a button and he would, like, his head would jump out and hit people. I had some robot guy. I still have some weird robot guy who has, like, his chest was translucent and you could see gears inside.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
I had a snake guy who could spray water out of his mouth. I just had all the funky aliens because I thought they were neat.
We haven't talked about the granddaddy of them all. Perhaps the reason that this law got to lapse in the first place.
Which was?
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
The first, the first big action figure marketed us thing that they were able to do, because it was a movie, not a television show, so it didn't follow kind of the broadcasting rules in the same way. And it was like I had a friend next door who had every single one of those.
Wow. Well, and this is a famous story that some younger listeners might not know. Very famously, George Lucas, when he sold like distribution rights to this movie, he kept all merchandising rights.
And they weren't worth anything.
And they were worth nothing because this law essentially prohibited you from selling toys in that way.
Yeah.
And so it didn't even occur to anybody. It wasn't even a market yet.
Yep.
George Lucas essentially invented the action figure market.
Yep.
I mean, he didn't, because there were others before that.
There were the giant G.I. Joes that precursed these ones, but those were dolls. They were this big, and they were about,
But the little kind of 5-inch tall plastic figure that we've got 200 characters in this movie. Let's give the weird guy in the back of the bar a name and see if we can sell a figure of him. That is today the standard operating procedure for every property. That was invented by George Lucas in the early 80s. So I had, and still have, a big Millennium Falcon. I don't have all the pieces of it.
That was the coolest one to have.
It was awesome.
Like that and like an AT-AT, those are the things you wanted. So
we had
I'm
the
impressed.
AT-AT, which was great. It was like the size of a small dog. It was wonderful. I don't think we still have that. We still have an Ewok village, though.
Oh, yeah. I didn't really have Star Wars stuff for whatever reason.
Oh,
I didn't.
It's because your parents couldn't afford it because they gave you all those G.I. Joes.
Yeah, I had G.I. Joes, and like I played with his. I think it's because I was scared of Darth Vader, like I've told you. Like, as I've mentioned, Empire, I would go run out of the theater every time Darth Vader came out and peek through the doors, because it was before, these light locks, and just watch till he left, and I'd come back and sit by my dad for it.
I had a Darth Vader figure when I was, 5 or 6 years old. And one night I didn't want to go to bed, and so I sat by my door of my bedroom, and I had this little Darth Vader figure, and I thought to myself, I wonder how many times I can turn his arm around before my parents finally just let me come out of my bedroom. And then like an hour later, his arm fell off. So
Wow, he lasted real well.
stopped playing with that guy. My favorite one was one of the scout troopers from Endor, Return of the Jedi. He was always Luke in disguise because I didn't have a good Luke that I liked. So I had Luke in disguise as a scout trooper.
So I have been delivered this thing where it looks like, is this the final 4?
This is up to date to this recording.
To this recording. So this means that we have our final 4 in each category.
I'm so excited to hear them.
So we have bracket, food heist bracket, the Gator Gourmands versus Do Not Steal the King's Potatoes. Number 1 seed versus number 12 seed.
Wow.
And then we have the Great Maple Syrup Heist, number 2 seed, or number 3 seed versus the Edelstahlkugel, the number 2 seed. So you did a pretty good job guessing.
Wow.
The only one that
Do Not Steal the King's Potatoes is definitely the outlier there. That
definitely the outlier.
Threw us off. That's wild. I don't even know if I could predict one of those winners, let alone 2 of them.
So I actually did a pretty good job too, because we have my number 1 seed, Jack the Carjacking Car, versus number 4 seed, Titanic 2 Sink Harder. And then my number 3 seed, Vikings versus Cthulhu, versus the big outlier on mine, Weekend at Vader's with an actual zombie versus the Great British Fake Off. Are we sure about this? I thought Freefall Burrito World beat Vikings versus Cthulhu. I swear I announced that.
I thought the same thing. Octavia says this is up to date.
Okay.
Are we sure?
I have announced it incorrectly then?
I am 90% sure that Freefall Burrito World defeated Vikings versus Cthulhu.
I can go check again.
Yeah.
And we can re-record a few minutes.
No, it's okay. They can hear us getting things wrong.
We don't edit dumb stuff out of this show. There wouldn't be a show.
Yeah. Because we can do our first 2 brackets, because that's in the next bracket.
Okay.
We will get confirmation by next episode for you, because you're gonna have to vote on that. But this time, it's here. Time to vote the final 4. We need you to vote the Gator Gourmands versus Do Not Steal the King's Potatoes. Number 12, our little food heist that could,
fiction that could,
versus the Gator Gourmands, our best story that we came up with. Then we also need you to pit Jack the Carjacking Car, probably the best story we came up with in the bad story ideas, versus Titanic 2 Sink Harder, which is probably the best shirt.
I have a definite favorite in both races, but I'm not going to say them. I don't want to influence our voters.
So we need you to go vote. Again, we'll put the links in the descriptions to the episode if you want to go. You want to co-participate. If you've been ignoring it up till now and you're like, I should vote in the final 4. Well,
you should do your civic duty.
You can do your civic duty, and we'll be back next week with the second brackets, where we will triple check whether Freefall Burrito World did indeed get, because I thought that one had made it, but
okay.
Yep.
How's that, Ben?